Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. Today I'm reviewing Bombshell. This was directed by Jay Roach and stars Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie and John Lithgow. The film is based on a real scandal, a revealing look inside the most powerful and controversial media empire of all time and the explosive story of the women who brought down the infamous man who created it. It really looks at the Roger Ailes story and what transpired behind the scenes at Fox News and what the women had to go through in order to get a job and to maintain the job that they have. It really looks at the lengths he went to and how he made the women feel really uncomfortable and his sexual harassment of them throughout the years. And it's really about how these women band together and ultimately take the power away from him. He ultimately becomes a disgraced man because of what he does. I thought this was a very solid film. All the acting's solid. And it's an interesting story, a story I didn't quite know a lot about. I didn't know who really Megyn Kelly was. I don't really watch news, so I wasn't really knowing who these people were, but it was interesting to see them portrayed on screen by these really great actors. I think Nicole Kidman's fine. She's not an actress I love, but she's okay in this. Margot Robbie's solid. She isn't really, in the real story of things, she wasn't a real character. This was an amalgamation of different people brought together and ultimately to create her character. And her character does serve a purpose. And in a way, her character is our eyes into the world. We all these things that Roger was meant to have done. But through her, we see what exactly transpires in his office between him and, you know, a young female trying to make a way in the news environment. So I think she serves quite a big purpose in that regard. She's a bit naive and doesn't quite understand how the media works and who this man is and what he really does and how women feel really uncomfortable. But she quickly learns. And she's a character that you feel for what's transpired and the effect that's had on her. I think Nicole Kidman's character is interesting. Gretchen, she was really the one who was fired and puts a lawsuit forward against Roger Ailes for sexual harassment. And she's really the first person to do it. And she feels quite alone in doing it because none of the women want to speak out. They don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to rock the boat, so to speak, and they're fearful what might happen to them, how they'll be treated after if they come out and say what happened to them and the type of person Roger Ailes was. But to me, the real standouts here is Charlize Theron and John Lithgow. Charlize is really great here. I know Megyn Kelly is a real person, but I love the way she plays it. And she's the most interesting part I found of the film. Her storyline was the one I was most fascinated and interested in. I liked the idea she's a very strong and driven woman, and that she was harassed by Roger Ailes. Slowly but surely she starts to realise that she really needs to speak up. She needs to say what happened to her. She needs to be the driving force. She's this big news anchor and has her own primetime show that she really needs to be the voice to stick with Gretchen and carry this over. But she's sort of the one who starts to talk to the other women and starts to investigate herself about what transpires, and even to the end telling her side of the story, what happened to her. And John Lithgow is he's a great actor, but he sort of disappears under the prosthetics and becomes Roger Ailes. And he's a really sort of creepy and sort of unsettling character in many ways. And I don't know how close his character is to the real Roger Ailes, but you just felt really uncomfortable around him. He was rude and nasty, he was overweight, and he was just manipulative. And he sexualized women in such a horrific way. And he made them do things in order to propel their career. And he was just horrifying to watch. And he has this scene between him and Margot Robbie's character where he makes her stand up and turn around and he tells her to hitch up her dress higher and higher and higher. And just this moment is so uncomfortable and just despicable to see this man go to the lengths he does. The horror on her face, she doesn't know what to do or what to think, and she knows this is wrong, but she doesn't know how to act, is a very powerful scene. And I think that encapsulates the whole accusations against Roger Ailes and what he did do to women and how he did sexualize them. I think this is an important scene in the whole film. It's a really interesting story. I didn't know a lot going in, but I learned a lot on the way. I like films like this where I'm not 100% sure or know all the details about what particularly transpired or who these people are, but through movies like this, I really get a sense of that. I think this film is an important film to come out, and this story needed to be told. I think in many ways this could have really been like what All the President's Men was to the Watergate scandal, that this film could have been towards the Me Too movement. And I felt this film should have come out a bit earlier, and it could have been a lot more hard-hitting. It played it safe a little bit. It did go into particular things and we did see things unfold, but I felt they could have pushed it a bit more. And we could have been a bit more controversial with what the subject matter and what actually transpired between Ailes and these women. Because I just felt it was an important story that could have really been the pinnacle of this whole movement, and women slowly talking about their experiences and fighting to be treated fairly and equally, and not to be sexualized or abused in any way, mentally or physically. And this film could have really been that. And it just didn't come out in the time that it could have been most powerful, but it is a powerful story, and it is important that we get to see these sort of films, and it is telling us what really transpired. In the style it's told, it's kind of going for the Big Short sort of feel, where, you know, Charlize Theron's character Megyn Kelly's speaking to the camera and breaking the fourth wall and talking about this sort of world. And that has that at the start and at the end. And these scenes felt very comical, and they felt like saying this is the world, but then just sort of joking around. And then it didn't keep that up throughout the film. And I understood why, because it didn't want it to make fun of or look at this subject matter lightly. But I just felt if you're going to do a film like that, you need to keep it consistent. Otherwise it's just a start and end and something in the middle. But it's just the style is told I just didn't like as much. It didn't feel as important as it could have been if it came out earlier, even though it is an important film to come out at this time. I think overall the story is interesting, but like I said, the Megyn Kelly storyline I enjoyed much more than the other two. And I can see why Charlize is nominated for the Oscar. She's fantastic in this and does a really, really great job. Final thoughts. For me, this film really, even though they took down Roger Ailes, and even though they had this win, they're still fearful of the way that people are going to act towards him in the workplace, and how they're going to be treated after they've said all these things, and how they'll be looked at. And I think this is a really tragic thing, that one, that these women went through this. Two, that they had to speak publicly about what happened. And three, they were still had that fear of be careful what you say and what you do and what you think and how you dress. But like I said, it's an important film, and I'm glad a movie like this was able to be made in a time like this and was able to tell the story I wanted to tell. I'm going to give Bombshell 3 out of 5. I thought it was an interesting and solid film, and some of the storylines I really enjoyed. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Facebook or Twitter. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.